Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Good. Zero?
Good.
Just nothing? How is it going?
I think we must be in the wrong room.
Okay.
I'm really excited to be here. How about a round of applause for these incredible game designers, guys? Oh, thank you. We just met backstage. It was very casual and mildly erotic, I think. Don't you feel?
Yeah, in trouble already.
Yeah,
There's a little something.
There's a little chemistry. There's something you can't really put your finger on it. But these guys obviously created some of our favorite games, some of the games that the D.I.C.E Awards are all over. So I personally, we have these pre-planned questions, but I also have a passion for you guys' work and have questions that will come from the heart. From the heart.
It's a good place.
Thank you, Glenn.
So you're welcome.
Glenn, you look like you created Call of Duty. Can I say that?
Yeah, I get asked, are you one of the expert guys? And I'm like, well, only when it comes to making the game. But
yeah,
they all think I was in the Marines.
You've never been in the military or anything?
No, far from it. I've been an artist my whole life.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of art?
I draw and I paint. I draw all the time.
And was this your first Call of Duty game?
No, we co-developed Modern Warfare 3.
Okay.
So that was Sledgehammer's first game, and Sledgehammer's second game was Advanced Warfare.
Because I think that's something that a gamer like me never really noticed until I got older, was you'd play a Call of Duty game, let's take that one that was like World War I, and you'd be like, I can't quite put my finger on what's different about it, but it's because it was made by a different company. You might have been used to one, and then another one took over.
Yeah, everybody has their own style, you know, or the engine that's being created, right? It's sort of your signature and your company's signature, and after a while, just people really get into that engine. And
what exactly were you a fan of the series before you started doing it? Or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why we're
here,
yeah. I mean, I had a tough decision. I made Dead Space, and then
Can I just stop you there? That was terrifying.
That's
like,
still is.
I don't know if I'm happy or mad at you for that experience.
Well, you could be happy.
I'm both. I'm happy and I'm mad at you for making me so close to pooping my own pants. But it was an amazing game, obviously.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. No, I mean, it was hard to leave EA, which I loved, to go and make you know, a different game when I hadn't created. But it's such a big, fun game to make, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's so much more research than people think. I mean, all the people that you learn from just working on the game is really, really
He's soft pedaling that. What he did was he left his child behind to go take care of somebody else's child. That means you really love that other child. I'll tell you.
Of course. And you have to know research. I mean, you worked on Madden, and did you say the NHL games as well?
I worked on our sports games. That's kind of what I'm best known for. But I worked on like 160 other games too.
That's incredible.
And that just means I'm old. That's all that means.
I have to imagine that there's a lot of research that goes into making a sports franchise. I mean, people will know if you're wrong. Not everybody playing Call of Duty, or certainly Shadows of Mordor, have been to Mordor or been to a war.
Well, let me tell you, they're all experts.
Yeah, actually, our live's a little easier because from time to time, we can prove that they're wrong.
Yeah.
These guys usually can't.
What do you mean by that? Like if somebody says it wouldn't have gone down that way, you can say we have the sports footage?
That's not, well, what it says, what they'll say is, you know, that's not realistic defensive coverage, and we can either prove that or disprove that. my point is, that's not what Mordor looks like. That's a hard argument to win.
Yeah.
You see, Madden did perfectly predict the Super Bowl this year.
We got that pretty right this year, didn't we?
Haven't you done that a lot with a pretty good accuracy?
You know, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we have done pretty well against that.
Yeah.
I mean, back to the 90s.
How do you continually, both of you guys, and believe me, I love Shadows of Mordor. I will have lots of questions for you as well. But in these things that are franchises, that are established things, how do you? It seems like a nightmare to have a think tank. How can we improve on these games that each one seemed perfect?
I don't know. Glenn kind of knows my process, which is we'll build a game, and there's inevitably the 5 good ideas that we didn't have time for this time.
Yes.
And so you know the next 5 things you're doing. The question is, what else do you do with it? A lot of it is both of us have to worry about how we're going to present this new content to customers. And so picking features that can be communicated together versus things that are kind of all over the place is another part of that process. You can add more.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges on a sequel or sequels, they really are, they get pretty hard at some point, right? Because you have to change so much to even get over that little hump of change at all, right? And But that's the fun part of our job. I mean, that, you know, like coming up with more ideas.
Yeah.
And it's just, right now, I'm in that mode where it's just thinking about new ideas and researching, and man, it's so rewarding.
So between the first two CODs that you did,
Yeah.
that's two years, right? Between those two?
We had 3 years.
Yeah. How much did just the market change? Because I don't know, for me, usually it seems like the world changes more than I got my 5 things, but the next 10 are stuff that changed underneath me.
Yeah, I think we're still gathering all the information on what happened last year. I mean,
Right.
in 14, I think that was the real change to the new consoles, which everybody had said it's the year before, but it seems like it's this year. You know, the U.S. is still wondering which platform to choose, right? And that's not normal.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's great news. Absolutely great news. Yeah.
Has that decision overseas been made more clearly?
I think it's made in Japan.
Yeah.
Is that right? Who was the winner? I'm curious. Does everybody know this, and I'm the only one that doesn't know?
Well, PlayStation does well in other places, but the truth is, I think they're both selling
Yeah.
really, really well this time. So nobody's a clear winner, which is actually really good.
That's gotta be
for
great.
us and for the game industry. And
3 years ago, when you talked to analysts, they'd swear there weren't going to be the next console wouldn't work at all. And it's like we would go from 200 million customers to 0.
Yeah.
It seemed unlikely.
It's like telling the Beatles guitar rock is over.
Yeah, that didn't really.
But Richard, I mean, to the point that these guys were making is they're doing representations of things that do exist. But in the minds of the fans, Mordor is as real as a place as Michigan.
Well, it's Michigan real.
Yes, that's the Brit.
But yeah, so I worked in EA Sports way back when, and then it was Total War, so it was strategy games. And I think with Middle Earth in particular, that's one of the things that differentiates it from kind of generic fantasy or fairy tale is that it gets treated like this incredibly real place. And
Right.
I think that's true in Tolkien, and it's totally true of the Peter Jackson movies.
For
He
sure.
really stated that he's filming them like historical films.
Documents.
And I think that's a huge part of what's made Game of Thrones such a phenomenon as well, is this reality and this plausibility. So you've almost got to overcompensate, even though it's fantastical. You have to make more effort to make it visceral and believable so that people can immerse themselves in it.
Well, the game does a good job at that. The first time you shoot a spider with an arrow, it gives you a little tour, which if you're a fan of the films, which I'm assuming you are, so much of the film does feel like a tour. Someone's always like, oh, that's where this happened and that's where that happened. So the game does that as well.
Yeah, and that's, I think, any sort of virtual world is letting people choose at what level they're going to experience it. There was a quote from Tolkien, and someone asked him, why do you always put mountains on the edge of your maps and not draw what's beyond? Because if I drew what was beyond, I'd have to draw more mountains beyond that. So you always want to let people dig in, see something, but always, leave another horizon, or I guess leave more for them to feel they can discover.
Yeah.
Great gameplay is always at the limits.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always what?
Great gameplay is always where there are limits. So it's, imagine a football field with no boundaries.
Well, I think
that's not a very entertaining game, actually.
That's the pleasure of games. In life, you go down a hallway and there's nothing there. But in the game, if there's a hallway, there's probably a reason for the game, for that hallway to be there. And that's one of the pleasures of gaming, I think, is there's a little bit of order. Did you guys feel a great pressure, for all three of you, to meet the expectations of the fans? Was there pressure for you guys making sequels to take things out or add more? Or the pressure of the fans that are such believers in this world?
We were in a really good situation, I think, with support from the publisher and the filmmakers and Peter Jackson, in that they had this great reference point of the success of Rocksteady's Arkham game, and that basically our brief was, don't make a movie game, make the best possible game that you can make, that, as a standalone experience that takes full advantage of being a game and of the medium. So that was really liberating, but then obviously a lot of pressure as well. And then there's just different tiers of fans. There's film fans. There's people who absolutely hate the films and love the book.
Yeah.
There's people who will despise you because you haven't got hobbits in it and it's not in the Shire. Like there is no possible way you're going to please everybody. So ultimately, really, just as fans ourselves, you just have to do the best possible job you can as fans, and then listen to as many different I guess, bits of feedback as you can, but ultimately just take the decision to do the best thing you can.
Although that does speak to the challenge of making sequels, and I think, Glenn, you can speak to this. It's like you always have to think of what's the next thing. Like you guys have done kind of like the World War III sort of idea, and now you're doing modern warfare, and it's like always, I have to understand as a stand-up, if I kill a set, I'm always thinking, what do I do next set? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, we are too. Yeah,
I have to think you don't even, it must be a challenge to find a moment to enjoy your success.
It is a challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean nowadays the industry's changed so much. We were just talking about the other day when you finished the game, maybe 10 years ago, you had about a 2-month victory lap.
Yeah.
You could just take the time off and relax and catch up. And now everything, being online and DLC and MDLC and patches and TUs and everything else, and the next game, you're struggling.
Yeah.
You're struggling to find time, but.
Yeah,
That's the way
my
film
audience
is.
used to wait a year. They don't wait a year anymore.
Yeah.
What is it?
My audience used to wait a year. They don't wait a year anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the Avengers movie. They test it, and as soon as they get it to a place where they know it's doing well, they start making the next one. That's the only way to do the business side of it.
Yeah.
I have to imagine you guys are all. I mean, the name Shadows of Mordor, Middle Earth, Shadows of Mordor implies we'll see Middle Earth : something else. And I know you guys are already deep in those trenches of finding the next things as well.
I can't talk about that.
Come on.
It's the new Call of Duty SpongeBob, right?
Yeah.
That's what's coming.
There's
That could be
something
the
there.
answer right there.
It's not a bad idea.
What I think is an interesting thing that all three of us in common, and one of the things I like having Michelle on the panel about is that he has sports experience, which is actually pretty unusual in game design. But we all make what are emergent behavior products. Yeah. There's some narrative to what Glen does, but really not that much. The game composes itself based on how you play it. And so players have a lot of strong opinions about what they want that experience to be like, and we do our best to give it to them. But in fact, 90% of the time, they are the ones with the control of that experience. And so I think people think we have more narrative control than we actually do. And so we get held more responsible for that when we don't do it well, and we get maybe more credit for it when we do.
That's interesting.
What of course is true about sports is that it is a story with all kinds of drama and a real kind of ritual and rhythm to it that people understand. What we do is try and make sure that the spotlight's showing the right thing at the right time, and that people get the chance to kind of celebrate that moment when they have their own personal version of it. But they bring a tremendous amount of context. They have their own history about that player, about that team, that is part of the composition of the fantasy that's going on in their heads. And really all we try and do is give them the tools to find that. In some cases, they see things we never put in there. In other cases, they can't find what they're looking for. That's really the journey for us. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, actually, I definitely place a big emphasis on story, and 3 years of it. Right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so it's really, really important for us. But I do understand what you're saying, that you want the player to have their own experience within that, right?
Yeah, 90% of what the players do in there, you do not directly control. They don't
Yeah, you want them to find some stuff and talk, these days, I want them to play the game that they want to play it, the way that they want to do it. But I'd like them to understand the story, right? And because we spent a lot of time on it, and they're talking about it. Nowadays, Metacritic, it used to be technology, art, design, and music, right? And now the number one thing for a game like mine is how's your story, right? And
we didn't
and
talk about multiplayer yet.
We haven't even talked about multiplayer. Yeah. So story is becoming, big. Story, of course, is a big deal with Tolkien. And so you have to engage them in it that way.
It makes it better for the player. I mean, the story in Mordor is amazing. I understand your challenge of adding a story to the thing that has a built-in narrative. Also, you have to, I guess you could say that about all three. There's a built-in struggle, but you have to make it compelling.
Yeah, and all of those, I mean, whether it's sports or whether it's Call of Duty, you really have different modes of playing the game existing in parallel to each other. So obviously in multiplayer, people are creating all sorts of incredible stories. So we're sort of almost trying to take that story engine and put it within the open world and the systems. One of the biggest reference points when we think about who our orcs are and why it's fun to hunt them and get revenge and take them down, and the way time moves forward when you die, was basically a single-player, multiplayer experience. but where everyone sort of gets to have that experience of being really, really dominant and ultimately coming out on top of the kill-death ratio.
I thought you were going to name celebrities that you based the orcs on or something. I was like, real assholes we could find.
Yeah. No, just general assholes from the world at large.
Well, you're right.
But
you feel vendettas. I know it's just programming, but you're like, this guy, I'm 35 years old, and I would spend hours running around looking for the specific orc that called me man-filth. He has to go down. And that is ridiculous. But I think there was a time that we used to play video games, at least a lot of us, I think, and would add our own narrative to them because there wasn't enough. So to make the game better, you'd go, I'm going to pretend, playing Madden, that this is the most important game. I'm going to add to the narrative that I was just injured and I'm coming back. And now we have that sort of stuff in the game. So you guys have met the gamer there.
What they do, I mean, I read USA Today piece today. We predicted the Super Bowl outcome. People didn't like that, so they went back and replayed it and ran the running play that they wanted to run, and Seattle won. We made both sides happy. It was a wonderful day. I think that's pretty common. I mean, when I used to play, when I was building our baseball games or our football games, that is one of my test modes was I'd go re-win those Super Bowls that the Vikings lost. So it was clearly...
It was catharsis for you.
Yeah, I think that's a part of what everybody does. And so,
Quite a few there for a while now.
They're really good at it. They're even better now at losing in the championship game.
But even in Call of Duty, Glenn, when the games were always amazing, but in the simpler story ones, I would make a story where I'm like, I'm a new soldier, I'm afraid, or I'm going to prove everybody right. And now I'm so impressed with the amount of, talk about artistic ability that you guys, I mean, you guys kill it, all three of you kill it. During the save screens, the voiceover of the flashbacks and you guys adding that stuff, not only are you one soldier, you're all these different ones, it's incredible.
But you're always Troy Baker, so it doesn't matter if you're in Shadow of Mordor or Call of Duty, you are Troy Baker.
I only play a game voiced by Troy Baker, that's me.
Oh, he's in everything, so you got to have him. But, he was overshadowed a bit with Kevin there on this time, but...
I'm feeling left out.
Well, come on. You can name every sports celebrity in the world right now. I bumped into half of them when I was in there.
What was your strategy upping the story? Like, where do you get these writers? Where do you get these ideas? Is it the film people, or is it your own people, or do you get notes? Do people go like, I don't like that this guy shoots this guy on a bridge at the end?
I'll tell you.
I'm so glad you didn't ask me this one.
Yeah, I don't even know if PR knows I'm here. You know what? The best stories are when they're written, to me, when I found they are written by the team.
Yeah.
A team of passionate writers. We will get people who can write. We've tried so many different models over the years. And, for a movie person, or we tried comics and TV, and, to come in and learn our field is just really hard. They can write a great story.
3 years. 3 years to really get them to baseline. I had Sundance-winning writer who I like a lot, I think is a great guy. It basically took 3 years to get him where he understood what creating an interactive scenario actually meant.
Right.
And it isn't because he's not capable. He just didn't grow up where we grew up.
It can't just be push A to continue. It has to be some sort of choice.
Yes, exactly.
I think we were sort of lucky in that we were making our first third-person open-world game, and we got Christian Cantamessa, who was the lead writer and designer on Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, yeah,
so
big win for
that
you.
helped us a lot in crafting, I guess, the linear story,
But he
but also
became
some
a
of
part
the
of the
structure.
team for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's one of the best
really
writers
closely
there.
with us.
There's something, we're almost out of time, but there's something that I'd love to talk to all of you about, which is borrowing from other games.
We never do that.
Never.
Never have.
Well, what does Picasso say? Great art, good artists
Steal
borrow.
from the best with pride.
Great artists steal. When I played Mordor, I was like, why aren't we just moving closer and closer to a lot of these games just having the same controls? I loved Assassin's Creed, I loved Arkham, and I loved Red Dead Redemption. And when I'm playing this game, it feels familiar, but you're just removing another obstacle for me to just get into what that game wants to show me. Like, I don't want the reload button on your next game to be different, because that makes me aware that I'm playing a game. Just make me in the experience. But I mean, I have to think that at this point you've just not made a peace. I don't think you should get any guff for that. Guff.
Good.
But
I like
I
that
think
word.
there's something about all your world is making these games, and you're all informing, just like art, just like painting, just like the Renaissance. You know what I mean? Everybody is going to learn from each other. Have you just kind of come to terms with that and been like, that's how it is?
Oh, it's deliberate in some ways. Like controls, I think, are almost like a symptom of how mature a particular genre is.
Yeah.
So the fact that people could just pick up and play and get into our game, that was a positive. And also convergence, like every game's an RPG now.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't make a game without progression and levels and XP.
Isn't that funny?
You know, and I think every game's going to be a social game, and every game's going to have like the good ideas propagate.
Why would you limit it? Life is an RPG. Life has XP and all that stuff.
How the hell did you know we were taking the reload button off?
I've said too much.
Leaking. I didn't know. Now I do, though. It's a good thing to know.
But all those things, that learning curve,
yeah. So I'd make the case that what you're actually telling us is something that I think is true, which is our games are actually still too hard to learn.
Too hard to?
Too hard to learn. So the average player probably spends 2 hours to basically learn how to play the most basic game. And asking for 2 hours of somebody's time, you know, we're video game professionals, and we have to make ourselves do it because that's our job. But most of our customers, between their normal family lives, to find 2 contiguous hours to concentrate on learning how to play a video game is a big ask.
It sure is.
And so I think that when you say, you know, why did you change those controls? What you're really telling us is, why did you make this new game so hard to learn versus the old one I just did?
Well, I wish they would. Our problem is a little different here and there because I'll get.
Yeah, you have expectations.
Well, not only that, people get like, why did you make a game that's only 5 hours long? And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
5 hours for you, dude. But
5 hours plus the 460 hours of online they play.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I'm thinking 5 hours for 3 years of work. You know?
Right. But there's something about the shorthand there. To watch a movie, you don't have to learn anything new. You just sit there and watch it. So the more that video games can remove that handicap and just become a thing that you can pick up more quickly, I think you guys actually do a great job. I'm just saying I don't want a world where left trigger isn't, you know, down the iron sights. Nobody does. And I don't want to your game, I'm playing all these on Xbox. I don't want X to not be, you know, I just don't mess it up for me. You can customize it, but I like the fact that all of your games are pretty simple. No, I wasn't giving you a note. I think you already met the note. I was actually saying I think you've done a great job making the games very playable. And, you know, we're doing the D.I.C.E Awards. We're out of time. But my big point is I think you guys are making something that is so much better, more entertaining than anything going. Not just movies, everything. And it's like the bar of consumers is up to your level. You guys are setting the water level to be like, that's what entertainment is. And I'm honored to meet all 3 of you. Can we have a round of applause for these guys and their amazing work?